Weather for Weather Geeks time, the Thursday evening edition here for October the 29th. October is almost in the books. We're going to talk about November coming up shortly. November might start more like September. It's looking pretty toasty. But anyway, in case you missed it, of course, last night I did the Weather Geek version of the winter forecast. You can find that on ericwfmj.com and on Facebook as well. So check that out. I will be doing the TV version this evening at 11 o'clock. That means a 2.5 or 3-minute condensed version of the winter forecast, but we'll have all the essential items included in there, so be sure and tune in for that tonight if you want to watch the winter forecast again in a condensed, shorter version. All right, today was a windy day, but it was nice to see the sun this afternoon. Now we have a deck of stratus clouds pushing in from the north and west. These clouds are going to take up residence for tonight and for tomorrow. The wind still frisky out there, continuing to diminish, and wind gusts today were 35 to 40 pretty consistently through the afternoon, and we did hit 40 miles per hour at the airport at about 3:30 this afternoon. But our system is pushing away, and as high pressure over here builds in from the west, the wind will continue to diminish as we head into tonight and into the day tomorrow as well. Going to just real quickly touch on late tonight and tomorrow morning. As this deck of stratus clouds moves overhead, it's not outside of the realm of possibility we pick up a quick sprinkle or a shower, especially north of I-80 late tonight into tomorrow morning. Here's tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. High-resolution model here shows a couple of blips here and there, but especially up towards I-90. There could be a passing shower or a sprinkle. Tomorrow, otherwise, just going to be a pretty cloudy day. Probably going to start to see some clearing late in the day, but it may take until the very last minute, right before sunset, before there's any sort of substantial clearing. All right, the Halloween forecast. We've been talking for a few days now that looks like the wet weather is mostly after dark on Saturday. I still think that's the case. Here's 2 p.m. It's going to be turning pretty cloudy at this point, but it will not rain. It's going to look like rain for trick-or-treat Saturday evening, but pretty confident now it is going to be a dry one. Here's 5 p.m. Most trick-or-treats run 4:30 to 7:30 on average, something like that. And here we are by 8 p.m., still looking mostly dry according to the NAM model. Here's the GFS. Pretty much the same idea. Any rains in northwest Ohio at 8 p.m. But then, if you're heading off to an adult Halloween party Saturday night, you will get wet, especially after 10, 11 o'clock, something like that. Passing showers through the overnight, and then by Sunday morning, a lot of this is trying to shift east. Sunday can start damp in some places, but I think this is just an early morning thing. By the afternoon, we're drying out. The process of losing the clouds Sunday may be kind of slow. It may take until deep into the afternoon before we see any sort of substantial sun for the first day of November on Sunday. It's also, of course, the day that it's the first day of standard time. We set the clocks back Saturday night, and at 2 a.m. on Sunday, it'll go back to 1 a.m. Sunday is the longest day of the whole year at 25 hours. An extra hour of sleep for many, unless you're out late or you work overnights or something like that. I worked overnights at my previous job at AccuWeather for many years, and for many years I got gypped out of that extra hour of sleep. I had an extra hour of work instead. So I'm always sensitive to those who may have to work Saturday night and therefore are missing out on the extra sleep. All right, as we go into next week, the story is going to be the pattern change. It's going to be a pretty abrupt one. Here's the upper level pattern up at 18,000 feet by Sunday, showing a ridge trying to form down here over southern Florida and Cuba. A little trough over Texas. More substantial trough out west. What's going to happen is the whole pattern is going to get amplified. This trough out west is going to really dig in, and then downstream from a trough, oftentimes a ridge pops up, and that's exactly what's going to happen next week. So by Wednesday, you've got a big bowling ball over here over California, and then a big ridge popping up from Florida right up the eastern seaboard. Indian summer weather, this will be. I've got 71 in our forecast for both Wednesday and Thursday of next week. And overnight lows, 50, 55 for early November. That's really something. That's closer to our average highs in early November. How long does this last? I think it lasts at least a couple of days, and even though the pattern will kind of revert back to a little bit closer to average during the second week of November, here's the 8th and 9th and the 10th, you don't see any big sort of troughs being shown by the model here, digging into the Great Lakes and Northeast. So we're not expecting during that second week of November any sort of abrupt pattern change to winter. No chances for widespread snow showers and that sort of thing. November as a whole, kind of an interesting forecast. In most seasons in which we're in or heading into a strong El Nino, November typically isn't all that warm across the U.S. Here's the composite of 1957, 72, 82, 87, 97, kind of your greatest hits of strong El Ninos, and you don't see much warmth across the U.S. when you throw all those together. That said, this year could be a different year. Here's the November forecast on the latest 7 runs of the CFS, the Climate Forecast System. Actually, this is the last 14 days worth of runs, I should say. And continues to sing the song that warm air is going to dominate from southern Canada down through the southeastern U.S. to the eastern seaboard with cooler weather out west. So this year we could buck the trend. Again, don't forget, tonight after The Player at 10, I don't know what The Player is, but it's on our channel at 10 o'clock tonight. Looks pretty neat. After that, 21 News at 11, my winter forecast will air probably around 11:06, 11:07, something like that. And then my regular 7-day forecast will come as usual at 11:15. So lots of FaceTime for me tonight. So be sure and check that out tonight. And I look forward to seeing you then. And I will see you again tomorrow on 21 News at 6 and 11, the Friday editions. Have a great Thursday night, everyone. Thank you for watching Weather for Weather Geeks.